This video shows you how to scan a bulky textbook. In order to get a better incision, I'd move to a page where I can find lines that are more defined. So I'd move to the about third page and you can see the lines there are more defined. So I'll get my standing knife and start to chisel through and start to cut through the threading at the back of the textbook. And as I cut through the thread comes off relatively easily, okay? In order to scan at superfast speed, the pages of the textbook would need to be discrete. There would need to be individual pages as opposed to being clustered. As you can see, despite the fact that we've got the back of the textbook off, you can see that, the back end of the textbook is still glued together. So we need to find a way to separate the textbook individually so that each page is standalone. So again, I'll be utilizing my Stanley knife to cut through them pages, okay? I couldn't find my meter rule, so I've improvised by using a chopping board. I'm not really worried about measuring. So what's really important is that you have, some, defined edge when you're cutting through, okay? So this does the job. It's pretty straight. It's as straight as the spirit level can be. So I'm cutting through them pages, ensuring that I get a somewhat dig or moderate incision as I cut through each bit of paper. So I will be cutting through, a couple of pages together as opposed to just one page. The more segments of sheets I can get off the textbook, the better. You can by all means use a meter rule or a ruler if you're worried about aesthetics, but the chopping board does the job for me. And so from here onwards, it's a question of just repeating and reproducing the process, just getting all the sheets out and making sure that as you're stacking on the sheets that you're removing from this textbook, that you're arranging them in the proper order. So, in an ascending order or chronological order with respect to them page numbers. Be careful with the Stanley knife so that you do not hurt yourself. Just make sure you're cutting away from, the pages as opposed to just leaving your fingers, right after the blade. And you might ask, why is it important to scan your textbook? You might want to have a backup copy or an extra copy just in case, there is an inferno. Carrying around a bulky textbook is laborious, so you might, want to scan it digital and, transfer it onto a flash drive or a hard drive. Libraries are going digital, so everyone's accessing a lot of information more electronically as opposed to, accessing, information, with a hard copy. Suffice to say, print off as required. And make sure that when you're cutting, the edges of your pages, make sure they're pristine, they're fine cut edges. Otherwise, if your edges are quite staggered, your scanner might have, problems or issues with regards to selecting each standalone page and scanning them through. So just make sure you've got fine cuts, okay? And when you're done, ripping off all the pages or cutting through all of the pages, make sure you sort of like go through each individual page just to make sure there isn't static between each page. Otherwise, when you're scanning through with your scanner may register, multiple pages that sort of like that's got static between themselves as one. And when you check the pages, you might find out that you've got 3 pages embedded. So make sure that you sort of like flip through the pages and make sure that you haven't got any static that makes your scanner think that the pages are a whole as opposed to individual standalone pages. And also make sure that you've got, an extra protection layer, just underneath your textbook to avoid any resultant damage from your Stanley knife. In this case, I've got a transparent plastic underneath, the textbook. You can have, a professional green cutting mat, it's pretty much up to you, as long as the tool does the job. I have got no intentions of salvaging, the hard copy of the textbook, but if you want to, you can glue it back onto the hardback, much more later. But I'll be shredding these bits off and discarding, okay? This is the hardback, you can scan this through with a flatbed scanner. And, the next step would be to gather all the pages that we've cut out together, flip through them, make sure there is no static, make sure each page is standalone, then run it through the automatic document feeder of the ADS Brother 2200 scanner. The ADS scanner can take an incessant number of pages. But scanning all of them pages in this textbook would be tantamount to saving a very large file. And you don't want to be there for ages, saving files onto your computer. So I would load the automatic document feeder, with as much, pages of text paper that I can get in. And once I've done scanning, subsequently save, the text files in segments as opposed to just saving the whole of the bulk text file to one text file or folder. And so, like I said, once you've finished, loading the feeder, scan through, multiple pages at super fast speed, okay? And if you've got a document jam, or the orange error light, flashes, click on the link in the description to see how to troubleshoot the error. And so the first part of the textbook that I've scanned is about 252 pages. So all I need to do is to save it to my PC. And the reason why I've done it like this is you don't want to scan about 5,000 pages. And as soon as you get a document jam, you take out the paper and you need to start, afresh. So for me, it's always best to do them in tiny or smaller segments, okay? As it doesn't make sense to be almost 90% done scanning the whole textbook. You get one document jam, towards the end of the process, and you need to revisit or restart the process all over again. So for me, it makes more pragmatic sense to do them in quadrants or segments. If you're trying to scan about 5 to 10,000 pages in one go, and if you want to salvage the hard copy, you could use some Gorilla Glue and some clamps to clamp on, the hard copies together. And also click on the link in the description if you're interested in seeing, the multi-feed document jam error or the orange LED illuminating flashing light error, how to set up and how to connect, and all, as well as other troubleshooting tips for the ADS 2200. And that's about it really. If you found the information useful, don't forget to subscribe, like and share, helps the channel grow. Thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and hopefully catch up with you later. Goodbye.